By then, over the last couple of weeks, we've been taking your ideas for video content. We've had a couple of special guests. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in to our video with Chris Akabusi, my video with Frankie. The comments have been really, really nice. So thank you very much for sticking with us during the international break. But this topic is my topic. I've been wanting to discuss this for a little while. And it's a bit of a domino effect thought process because it's triggered by the talk of PSR. Nottingham Forest being deducted points. Everton, Leicester City are now in the firing line. And I feel comfortable that West Ham are okay, that we're complying with that and we're not in danger of getting hauled in front of the independent commission and getting a points deduction. I feel comfortable with that. But what I am uncomfortable with, Gonzo, is the longevity of West Ham not complying. I think we will do that. But raising as much funds as possible going forward in order to spend money. I think the days of splashing big money on big players willy-nilly are gone. I think that's not quite a thing in the past, but I think it will become one. But I strongly believe that the clubs that will benefit in 2-3 years' time are the ones that get it right today, with a big focus on, first of all, the academy, and second of all, how good is your scouting? How good are you at identifying players and then developing players? Because there is going to have to be a process where you sell players for a profit, possibly every summer. You're going to have to sell 1 or 2 players that banks a profit and allows you to reinvest it into the playing squad. And I think those who do nothing today and or have poor transfer policies and transfer recruitment, I think in a couple of years' time, they're really going to struggle to raise money to invest in players. And I think looking at West Ham's situation now, I think we've got a really good academy, but there's no route. And I think we've got a really good sporting director in Tim Steidin, but there's no influence. And between the two of them, there's no evidence of player development, in my opinion, for the youngsters, whether they come from the academy or we bring them into the club and develop them into first-team players. And as a result, I'm quite worried that we're one of the clubs that's going to struggle in a few years because of what we're not doing today in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, if that does happen and we were to struggle, we would look back on this situation now and think, how has that happened? Because everything was in place. Because Steidten is one of the most one of the best reputations in Europe, it has to say, for a head scout. Yes, this is his first job as a director of football, but that's a natural progression. He has served his apprenticeship, make no mistake about it. You've only got to look at what is happening at Leverkusen now. Did he bring everyone in at Leverkusen? No, but he would have played a part in bringing so many of those players over who are just killing it in the in the Bundesliga at the moment, obviously doing well in Europa League because we're going to face them as well. Also, he would have played some part in bringing Xabi Alonso in. He wouldn't have been ostracized. He would have been part of the talks, part of the decision-making process. This is a guy who knows all about bringing players in. We know all about the data analysis. We covered all this stuff when he was about to come in. He's data-driven. He's brought people into the club who are data-driven. And his brother. You got to do that. If you get a job at West Ham, you got to bring your brother in, haven't you? But he's got a really, really good reputation. So what are you going to need? You've already covered the 2 things. You're going to need to externally bring in good players who cost a pittance and are going to grow and become something. You want to go out and get that bargain for 5 million or even 10 million. In Premier League terms, a bargain is 10 million. If he's going to go on and become a 30, 40 million pound player, that's what you have to do. That's in place. We have it now. We just have to press the launch button on it, basically. The other thing is the academy. I would make the argument that I'm not going to say it's never been better, but in recent years, it gets no better, I feel, than having. We still don't know yet whether our team and I'm talking about our youth team here, are the best in Europe. We're hopefully we're going to find out, right? But that is, I have to say, that is also would be without Callum Marshall. So we've already stormed through the group stages in the basically the Premier League European competition. We've faced off against big European clubs like likes of Valencia, Lyon. We've played these clubs, the French clubs, the Spanish clubs. Our youngsters are comparable to any of those. Domestically, we've won the FA Cup last season. Look at the semi-final, demolition job of Southampton in the semi-final. Southampton have a good academy. We destroyed them. Then we get to the final, Jack Wilshere's Arsenal team. I watched last season, the very first a development game of the season was West Ham against Arsenal. I watched that game, and I'll tell you now, Arsenal have got some brilliant players. For us to get to the final, we are dealing with slightly different age groups, by the way, development and under 18s, obviously win the FA Youth Cup. We thrashed them. It wasn't even a contest. You look at semi-finals and finals, you did 6-0, 5-0. There's so many of this, so much of this stuff along the way. We clearly have by the only metrics you can use, we have an excellent youth team. In the EFL Trophy, our team swatted aside League One and League Two teams, won the group. Our young players, and these were technically, you could play in that tournament as an under-23 team. We had 17, 18, 19-year-olds, basically. We weren't even really using. We got rid of a load of our under-21 players, like Ekwa and players like that, because this team is so good. So I'd make the argument again, it's there, it's in place. We just got to press the launch button. Everything we need is there. It's just that bit of connective tissue, if you want, that's just gonna make everything work together, Geo. And I really do believe this. If we muck this up, we may never have it so good. Yes, I do believe teams like Manchester City are well poised to do this, because they do it anyway. Teams like Chelsea, they bring these players in and they sell them on for a profit. Are we at that level yet? No, but I tell you what, we're poised. We're ready. All the groundwork and all the hard work has been done, and it will be criminal, absolutely criminal, if we don't then take it and allow both those things, the scouting and the youth team, to flourish.
Is there brighter days ahead for the academy? That's what we're going to discuss in a minute. But there's certainly brighter days outside. Gonzo, have you had the lawnmower out yet?
Funnily enough, Geo, I have been trimming my bush very regularly. What with spring, the blossoms on the tree, the flowers are sprouting or doing whatever they do, and I have got my lawnmower out from Manscaped. And I've got to tell you, Geo, well, I got to tell you, you got to tell them what a magnificent piece of kit this is.
There you go. The Lawnmower 5 is in Gonzo's hand, and we don't wait for the sun to come out. We use it all year round, and you should be as well, because, gentlemen, when you cut the grass, the tree looks bigger. So get pruning those bushes. But Manscaped have everything that you need for all your grooming desires, as well as your nose, as well as your ears. And if you have a beard like Gonzo, it has what Gonzo thinks is the best beard trimmer on the market. Now, while you get shaving, we're going to give you a saving. If you head over to Manscaped, pop everything you want into your basket, and use the code HammersChat, all one word, you get 20% off everything with free shipping worldwide. So get your hands on Lawnmower 5 with the ceramic blades and interchangeable heads for you to allow to prune upstairs as well as downstairs ahead of summertime. Make sure your body is ready for the beach. Gonzo, the academy, are you confident it's going to happen though?
Yeah, I like the shaving and the saving, by the way. I think that's some
saving before you go shaving.
I like it. That's some good stuff. Repeat your question, please.
The academy, are you confident? You said we are ready to push the launch button. Do you think we're going to do it though?
No. Someone has to though, and I want to be wrong. Somebody has to have identified what you've just said. It is obvious. Kieran Maguire has said on a recent tweet or a recent podcast, he does lots of stuff, and obviously he's been lucky enough to have him on Hammers Chat on a number of occasions. The West Ham are sort of okay.
Yeah.
But we have just sold Declan Rice and our squad depth. And if that's what it's going to take to make someone okay, that's not great. We've already done, you've heard what myself and Geo think about financial fair play and profit and sustainability. It's pointless repeating that. We are in the situation that we're in. And I would be very, very disappointed if the club haven't noticed the climate has changed on that and what is needed here. And I think what is vitally important, and just to go with the academy before we get onto the scouting in particular, we have to give them a go. What we've been guilty of doing is letting players go before we've given them a really good try. And the people will always turn around and say, oh, look, they've not gone on and done anything. But sometimes you need to give players a go. just to find out. And I think now more than ever, you have to have said to the player, right, I'm going to give him 5 games in his position or something like that. It's not a lot. They probably deserve more. But look, this is high intensity Premier League football. Okay. You're not perhaps going to get that. But who knows? And I know Ekwa is not a great example because we'd actually brought that player in from Chelsea. But I will use him as an example because by all accounts, people are impressed by him. And he appears to be so good, he's not going to stay at Sunderland. What about, and he's a central midfielder. What about if he had played for us? Funny enough, I'd already mentioned earlier on that first game of the season that we played against Arsenal. Ekwa played in that. And we did a report over on our Patreon on it. And I said the only player that I thought in West Ham's team at that point that looked capable of stepping up was Ekwa. We didn't give him a chance. He's gone. What you actually have to do is you've got to get 2 things right. Number one is the scout. Number one is the development and giving them a chance to find out. The other one is making sure your loan system is working. Because if they don't work out with you, then you want to make sure they go on elsewhere and they become a £10 million asset elsewhere. You mentioned, I've forgotten the geezer's name now. You meant we just prior to this, we just recorded our Newcastle preview. You were mentioning the fella that Newcastle have got left back from Chelsea.
Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall's the left back from Chelsea.
Yes. Now he's not really played for Chelsea, but and you could even make an argument that possibly even Ian Martson's not really played for Chelsea. He came back from Burnley, didn't really work out, and they got a lot of Cucurella and Chilwell and all the other stuff going on out there. But it's still good, really, really good academy work from them that he goes out and he gets loaned to Burnley and he's exceptional by Burnley and Dortmund. That ain't bad. Even if they don't want him, they have an asset on their hands, and Chelsea are in a little bit of a financial strife. Chelsea have to sell and have to raise some funds. Well, they can because they've got their loaning right and they have their youth development correct. We have to. You've asked a question, do I have faith in it? No, I don't, but we don't have a choice. We have to do it, Gio. Yeah,
I completely agree. I'm not going to repeat everything you said, and I know a lot of people watching this can say it's the manager, because I did a video before about like the academy players, and Callum Marshall's loan in particular had annoyed me. And a lot of people said, well, it's David Moyes. And I appreciate that. But A, we don't know who's going to be here next season. And B, this is in spite of them. It doesn't matter who the manager is next. Whether it's Moyes or we go get anybody else, this has to happen regardless of the manager. Now, since Gonzo's tackled the academy, I'm going to move on to the scouting process. And this is where, when you talk about, buying players for 5-10 million in that bracket, they tend to be cheaper, but also their wages are ridiculously cheaper as well. You can bring players over probably on like 20 grand a week or something. You can probably get 3 or 4 young players in from abroad that will accumulate to the same wages as one Danny Ings. And this is where we need to start getting wiser, because the wages are obviously a big part of the PSR that we need to adhere to going forward. And what's better for your squad? One big senior player like Danny Ings. It's not just Danny Ings. It could be Calvin Phillips or Aaron Creswell. He's probably not on 100 grand a week, but he's still on 2 or 3 times what Abraham Osman would be on, for example. Sure. And this is where we really need to change our transfer policy. And it's not to say there's no room for bringing in senior players. Absolutely, and there's a need for it as well. You can't only invest in young players. But this is where you have to get the balance right. And I think we have to get it right immediately. And we can't afford to go into this summer unprepared, because this isn't only West Ham. This is for every club. And Aston Villa have already started doing it in January. They've started signing players for the future in January. They're in the hunt for a Champions League spot. And rather than going and buying players that might make an impact on the season now, and they did with one player, they took Rodgers in. The other 2 players, it's a case of, well, we'll sign them, but we won't use them. We'll leave them where they are. And in the summer, we'll bring them in, and hopefully they can go for next season, or we'll loan them out for a couple of seasons and bring them back, and they're ready. Villa are already planning 2 or 3 seasons ahead. Brighton have been doing it for a considerable period of time. Brentford are already doing it. They've already replaced Ivan Toney before they've sold him. We don't even know who our manager is going to be next season, and it's April next week. So this is where... And I appreciate Osman one had a bit of a curveball with the agents thing, but January come round and other clubs feel like they're bulletproofing themselves for the future a little bit. We aren't, and I just think if we don't act now, we very much could find ourselves in a few seasons' time, because Chelsea at the minute are under financial pressure. So they've looked at the score and go, who's the academy players, because they're 100% profit. And this is something I wasn't aware of. Kieran Maguire explained it to me. It's done by profit on players as much as anything else. And that's why those academy players are the golden goose for Chelsea, because that's why they're looking at Conor Gallagher and saying, well, we're going to have to sell you. I don't care if you're captain, because you're worth pure profit. Matson's pure. Levi Colwell, Martin Guy when he went to Crystal Palace. There's hosts of players that leave Chelsea with a handful of first Europeans, but they go for tens of millions.
Yeah.
And that's just pure profit to them. So they've got this conveyor belt. You can call it talent. I'll call it cash. They've got this conveyor belt of cash coming out of the academy at the minute. Let's just say Ekwa was one of our biggest potential players this time last year. We literally gave him to Sunderland for free and said, well, we'll just have 50% of what you sell him for. That's it. That was one of our biggest prospects in academy. We practically gave away for free and said, well, we'll have 50% of any future. Now, he may go for 5-10 million. We might get 2 to 5 million for him. But there's also the possibility he just stays at Sunderland and we don't get anything for him.
Yeah.
So it's just, we need to sharpen up quick. Otherwise, I think we'll be doing videos in 3 years saying, how has this happened? How have we got into the point where we're struggling to raise capital to buy in players, because what has been a threat for many years in the Premier League is now serious repercussions and points deductions, and it's only going to get tougher now. The government are trying to intervene more and more. I think the sanctions, the punishment, I think are going to get greater, and those who do their business right now, and it's not even buying players, it's preparing to buy players, do it right now, invest in the right infrastructure, you'll really benefit from it. And you might see in 3 years' time Aston Villa selling the player they signed in January this season for 3 times as much as they bought him for, and we're looking going, oh, that Callum Phillips hasn't really worked out, has it? We paid 25 million for him in the summer, and he's probably worth 5 now. I'm worried. The club say the right things, to some extent do the right things, which is, hey, the academy's doing well. We're going to, Mark Noble's in here. We've got Tim Steiden in here. We're doing a lot right, but we're still not doing a lot with what we're doing right, if that makes sense. We've baked a sponge, Gonzo, and someone's going, are you going to put ice in now? It's going to put in fillet now. Just plain sponge. We're just going to have plain sponge. You've done the hard bit. Now do the rest of it and make it a really good sponge.
And no one's paying £5 for a slice of plain sponge.
No, but it's a worry of mine. It is a worry of mine because, I just don't see it changing.
I'm looking forward to the video in 3 years' time.
I'm not.
When we're promoting Lawnmower 7.0.
I'm going to write somewhere on a stick-it note. I'm going to write the date of this video. And
might lose its stick in 3 years. I think it's losing its stick.
Oh, I'll
tell you what, the currency here actually does become the director of football. They become more and more important. And
there's a reason Man U are paying 20 million.
What, for Ainsworth?
Yeah.
So what did they pay? I didn't know that. Wow.
20 million.
He's a bit. I'd say he don't mind flashing his knickers around, does he? He's a bit. Should we call him nomadic?
He's a journeyman director.
I've got another word begins with S. But there you go. Anyway.
If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, comment by clicking thumbs up. It's been a topic that's been irritating me for some time. That's without even discussing the loan manager at West Ham, but we'll save that for another time. Please subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat, myself and Gonzo. I'll catch you in a bit.